Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to the Chicken Box. What's happening? Oh man, the sun is shining. If you haven't smiled today, try it. I'm telling you, it changes your whole life and your whole day. Ashley Fields, I'm gonna call you our DC editor. I'm tired of saying Afro assistant editor in DC. It looks like the district is live and behind you. How are you today?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. I'm excited to talk to our guests. I wore a little yellow to bring the sunshine, so let's get into it.
Yeah, last week we did Black People versus Polo and Jazz. Okay, we're gonna dig deep into it because this is part two. This is Black People versus Polo Players, and we got a big event coming up. I think it's September 23rd. That we'll get into later on in the show. But we have some special guests. I have never met any Black polo players. Matter of fact, I haven't met any white polo players, Asian or Hispanic polo players. So I'm super excited. Wait a minute. I'm so excited. I forgot to say this is the Chicken Box. If you're not from the Baltimore area, you don't know. A chicken box is four wings and fries, but this is where we come speak our truth. It is powered by Maryland's oldest Black business. Yes, the Afro American newspaper, which is now a media company, 131 years. We just celebrated the birthday. Kudos to the oldest Black business in Maryland and the third oldest Black business in the country. We are here to inform, educate, empower, and to bring you the good news because it's enough bad news going on. And the fact that the bad news is just about 1% of our race really kills me. So we're going to make it and flip it to 100% of the good news here at the Afro. So welcome to the Chicken Box. Let's bring all our players on at once. I know it sounds, I don't know if they're players or players. Bring all the players on. All right. We got a whole team of polo players joining us. We have Eric Brown, we have Kevin Scott, we have Miguel Will, Johnson. Kevin sounds like he is still trying to get on. Kevin, we'll wait for you because my name is Kevin. So, we'll wait for you to come back in. But we're going to get started. I do not have everybody's bio on, and I don't want to bore everybody with reading somebody's bio like your introduction. I'm going to, who is the team captain? Do you have a team captain?
Bro, that'd probably be Miguel.
I don't know. I think Eric's one pulling everything together for us up there. So,
all right. Well, Eric Brown, you are up first. Introduce yourself, where you're from, what else do you do besides play polo, and how did you get into this sport of polo?
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. My name is Eric Brown. I'm from Northern Virginia. I currently live in Richmond, Virginia. I've been riding horses since I was 5 years old. Started in Culpeper, Virginia. My family were horse trainers, show jumping, fox hunting, and steeplechase trainers for the wealthy people in the area back in the early 1900s. I took to it when I was age 5, so they kind of introduced it to me with a pony, and we all kind of grew up riding bareback. So got into to keep going with learning. I went and worked for horse trainers in my teens, and then went to college. So I stopped for 20 years, and then my wife, when I was about 40, said, "You need a hobby." So she kind of said, try polo, because I'd always talked about it, and went to play at a kid's school, and I got beat by an 8-year-old and got hooked. And she crushed me. She just kept going on. But that hooked me, and I just love the game ever since. And it's been about 13 years I've been playing so far.
Welcome to the Chicken Box, Eric Brown. They said you were the team captain. What is the name of you guys' polo team?
We don't have a name.
Y'all gotta be the Four Horsemen or something. You gotta come up with a name.
Yeah, we need a name. Yeah,
you gotta be a name because listen, y'all are making history right now, and you actually being archived into the Afro through this show. But hey, we can't let it ride with just
we have to come up with
nameless horseman. That's not gonna work. So you
pick it. I mean, you pulled this together. So
y'all gonna have to come up with a name before we leave the show.
Gotcha.
Miguel Wilson, the founder of the Morehouse Polo team. Welcome to the Chicken Box. Tell us a little bit about your story before we get started.
Thank you, sir. So I'm a native Washingtonian. I grew up in D.C. and fell in love with horses around 8 years old when I went to a camp. And that experience and exposure just kind of led me down a whole different path in life. I pretty much stayed in the library reading all books I could about horses, and I worked at barns. My grandmother paid for me to take some riding lessons, but I also used to clean the horses and feed them and stuff like that to get some extra riding time. So I grew up primarily riding hunters and jumpers, and while I was in college at Bowie State, I galloped racehorses in the mornings. And just like Eric, after college, I kind of stopped riding probably for about 10 years or so. And when one of my sons took an interest in riding, I got back into it. And I was always curious about polo, and always thought that was like the one sport. If there's one, this is the one sport that I think hardest for us as African Americans to get into. So, and like you said, most people haven't seen or know of any black players. So I wanted to try something different. And like Eric said, I fell in love with polo. It's very difficult and challenging, but I didn't want it to defeat me. So I just kept trying and kept playing and taking lessons and so forth. So, I started becoming better.
Miguel, welcome to the Chicken Box. Kevin seems to keep dropping off, but he's gonna come back on. It's like South Park, who killed Kenny, but he just keeps dying and coming back on the show. Dale Johnson, welcome to the Chicken Box.
Thank you for having me.
Man, give us your quick story, and then we're gonna move from there, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Dale Johnson. I'm a native of Oakland, California, and I got into horses. There's just a family lineage there. So like many folks from Oakland, a lot of our people come from Texas, Louisiana, and so they brought horses with them. My grandfather raised horses on our family's ranch, which was a black settlement that my family founded after Juneteenth. So the freed slaves had become cowboys, if you will, and my grandfather grew up in that tradition. Unlike Miguel and Eric, I didn't necessarily take it up too young. I actually took it up when I was older, and when I could actually afford to play. I've always been an athlete, so I was an athlete in high school, college, and I loved horses because of my family. So I love polo because it combines my love of athleticism with my love of horses. And really, for me, polo is kind of taken off, and it's kind of, granted me sort of new avenues, if you will. So I'm now the chair of the United States Polo Association Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And then I also am a model for the United States Polo Association's clothing brand. So,
okay.
So polo is and like Eric and Miguel, I love the sport. I love the challenge.
Man, Ralph Lauren is not the only one who can have a polo team. You understand what I'm saying? I wore my little polo shirt today just in honor of the black polo players that we had coming on today. But Ashley Fields, what it goes through your mind? We're a generational show, guys. I represent Gen X. I don't know what you guys represent. X, millennials.
Millennial.
Gen Z, that's me. But I wanted to talk to you guys just about being young in the sport, specifically Miguel and Eric, growing up and not seeing a lot of black players. What kept you connected? How did you break into the culture of horseback riding? And then more specifically, what got you started with polo? What attached you to it? How did you find your passion for it, being a lone ranger in the sport?
Go ahead, Eric.
For me, growing up in school, there weren't very few males riding, number one. It was all mostly female, and very, very few black riders in general. I stayed connected to it by talking to the older black horsemen that kind of coached me up. So these guys were in their 60s and 70s by that time. So they would school me on little things. But I met a lot of older trainers that kind of took me under their wing, showed me things, exposed me to different training techniques. And that got me through high school, which is when I stopped. But all that stuff stayed with me. And then even in my late 20s and 30s, I still exercise rode for some other older trainers before they passed away. So they just want to talk at that point. So that's kind of how it connected. But when I was about 30, I started to see an uptick in the number of black riders coming on. So I started seeing them at events, which was, great for me. With polo, I was playing against children. And so the first time I scored a goal, I was hooked. And then started realizing how the game moves and the level of horsemanship and communication you need with your teammates. It's a team sport, is you and your horse and then the other players on your team. You have to communicate. The horse has to know its job. You have to know your job. You've got to be fit. All that comes together. And when you make those good shots or good assists, it feels really good because you're like, man, it all came together and the horse knows what to do. He's setting you up or she's setting you up. And You get that nice pass to somebody that scores, or you get a nice ride off or a bump and run where we actually you're not supposed to throw elbows when you do bump and ride because you're fighting over the ball. That competition is fun to me, and I'll have fun with it. But that level of competition just kind of keeps me sucked. So even though I'm older and I've been hurt, I still want to come back and still be competitive. So you gotta.
You say bump elbows?
Yeah, you're supposed to put your knee over the other rider's knee to kind of push him off the line of the ball. But a lot of people will throw an elbow at you out there in the field, so you have to be prepared to kind of throw one back and push him out of the way.
Is that legal in the rules?
It's not legal, but people, when the ref usually can't see it, so you kind of have to be prepared to counter that because they'll throw it out there to kind of push you out of the way if they can't get the horse's advantage of you. So they'll just throw it out there and lean into you, and you have to be able to be able to counter that. So that's one of the things and then some people will talk trash, which it's never mean, it's just fun. So it just kind of sucked me in. So I don't think.
What is sport without a little trash talk? Man?
Yeah.
Play anything without trash.
Yeah, yep.
Kevin Scott, can you hear us? Kevin looks frozen still. I think he's in the bad Wi-Fi area or something. But this is the team. They're gonna come up with a name because these are black polo players. Dale, for those who've never played polo, don't know the sport, this is Black People versus Polo. We got a polo and jazz event coming up. Taryn, you pop the flyer in or send the website that people can come and actually, it is a thing, y'all. If you haven't been, I heard it is a thing to go to. If you've been to one of the events, to the Preakness or to Belmont State or to any of these horse races, it has nothing on polo. So listen, Dale, for those who don't know anything about polo, treat us like fifth graders and tell us, how does the sport work? Just give me a quick overview of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eric alluded to it some. So let's just talk about it. I like to compare polo as like soccer and hockey on a horse, if you will. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a field, pretty large field, and you're going to have 4 players on 4 players. And just like in soccer, each is defending a goal. They throw the ball in the middle, and those players kind of create a scrum to grab that ball. And then whoever takes the ball starts to take it to goal, right? So now the objective is for the opposing team to defend their goal and stop that ball from being hit in. And so there are a few different sort of defensive maneuvers that players can do in order to stop that. So one that Eric just alluded to was something called a ride-off, where you actually take your horse and you bump that other horse out of the way. Because everything about polo is what we like to call man, line, ball, right? So when that player hits that ball straight, they create a line, and a line from where they hit it to infinity or to the goal. And so the opposing team can't cross that line, but what they have to do is they have to figure out how to take advantage of it. So there are a few things they can do. The ride-off is one. So if you bump them out of the way, the line is yours. And there's a few things that player can do. They can take that ball and hit it back to their other players, and then the other players can take it to goal, or they can do something called like a hook. They can stop the person when the person goes to swing the mallet. They can actually hook that mallet and stop them, and you have a dead ball. And then your teammates behind you can kind of scrum for it again and see who can take it to goal.
So the scrumming is like hockey to face off, or no?
Yeah, so I played rugby in college, so scrum is actually when now those people kind of bump together and try to get the ball, really, ultimately.
Right, okay.
Like hockey, and so they kind of, people are doing that on horses. So I think one thing that I think it's probably already alluded, but polo is very much a contact sport as well, right? So we're bumping into each other. We're wearing the gear for a contact sport, so you'll see the elbow pads, you'll see the knee pads, you'll see the goggles, you'll see a bunch of different things. But the difference is we're moving at 20, 30, and in the real professional levels, close to 40 miles per hour on these amazing, wonderful giving animals. So
40 miles an hour.
I didn't know polo was a contact sport. I wonder, how do the horses deal with that, especially at such high speeds? Is there anything that you put on the horse to protect it too?
Absolutely. And I mean, Miguel and Eric, I don't want to take up all the time, but there are a bunch of things that we do to ensure the protection of the horses. And another thing to add is in polo is pay to play. So you don't want your horses getting hurt, right? It's not like, we're coming out here making a ton of money. We're probably spending more than we'd ever get back. So you do want to protect your horse with leg wraps. We tie their tails, we shave their manes so that they don't get things don't get caught up in the reins. And then, just everything. I mean, and a lot of the rules around polo are about the protection of the horse. I'd make the assessment that the rules protect the horse more than they do the human. So it's there are a lot of things that we do, and so I think one misconception that a lot of people have is that we use them as tools, and that's not it at all. These horses are very well cared for. They are the rock stars of the equestrian world.
Now,
All right, so somebody sent this picture. What do we have here?
That looks like, is that Kevin?
Go ahead.
It might be Kevin.
That's definitely Kevin.
Yeah,
Okay, let me let Kevin. Oh, that is Kevin. Let me let Kevin in. There he is.
Hey guys.
Thank you.
Kevin, welcome to the show. So this is Kevin up. Was that Kevin before?
Yeah.
Let's just analyze this picture for me, guys. What do we have here?
Well, it looks like the player in the red is trying to catch up with the player in front of him in the blue, possibly to ride him off or either try to hook him because to get to the ball. So he's playing. The guy in the red looks like he's playing more of a defensive place, and the guy in the blue is probably an offense.
Right. If you look at the bottom, I could see the ball right near the blue rider right there.
Right. Exactly. So yeah. So he's trying to advance the ball down, and the red player is trying to stop him.
How large is the field of play?
The field is 300 yards long, like 3 football fields long,
and 150 wide.
Yeah, and like you said, everything pretty much around polo is geared towards safety. This is one of the few sports, if not the only sport, that everybody has to play right-handed, and that's for safety reasons. So,
so everybody has to play right-handed.
Right.
300 yards.
Right. So in a polo match, in basketball and football, you have quarters. In polo, we call those quarters chukkers. Each chukker is 7.5 minutes. Typically speaking, we're galloping the horses pretty fast and hard for those 7.5 minutes. So once the end of that chukker, we generally change horses. So typically, each player on a team will have approximately 4 horses for the match. So you got 16 horses required for each team. So in one match, you got 32 horses there in general. So it's a lot of horses needed because they're running so fast. You can't, just about the protection of the horse. You don't want to kill a horse, overrunning them.
So you have to have a relationship with 4 horses, huh?
Yeah. And to add to Miguel said, the size of the field in total is approximately 10 football fields. So that's a lot of space. Mm. And
10 football fields?
10 football fields.
Yeah.
The square area of the field,
square area,
because it's 150 yards wide and 300 yards long. So you have to switch horses a lot. And at the very high levels of polo, people are playing 2 or 3 horses per chukker. So you can see how it becomes very expensive because these elite players might play 16 horses in a single game.
Wow.
How much time do you train with a horse and building that relationship? Is it per week? How does that training process look for you to build that bond with the horse? And also, how long have you been riding your horses that you're going to play on in this upcoming Saturday?
So generally speaking, they say it takes about 2 years to train a polo horse because you have to train the horse the basics of riding that every trained horse knows, walk, trot, canter. But then polo is different because you have to introduce them to the contact and the physical nature of the game. And see horses running at them at full speed, to see mallets swinging around them, to see all that stuff, which if you just take an ordinary horse out of somebody's yard, it would freak them out and you'd get bucked off or they'd run away. So it takes quite a while to condition the horse to accept all that's going on in the game.
Yeah, it's not natural for we all of us grew up riding horses, and one of the things we taught when you're riding hunters and jumpers is really keeping your distance between other horses.
I'm gonna pause you for a second. Let's get to what a hunter is. We gotta act like we don't know.
Okay, yeah. So
what a jumper is. Y'all are already in it deep. We just trying to catch up right here.
A lot of us grew up and started out riding what they call hunters and jumpers. Hunters are it's a form of competition where you're jumping and you are judged by your form and how good of the form of the horse. Jumpers are when you are competing on clearing fences and speed. So it's more athletic. But those are two things that we generally start out riding, and it helps us build the foundation in our riding. And then that when you switch over to polo, you don't have to focus on your riding aspect. You just focus on learning how to swing and different movements and so forth. So it's definitely a challenge. And so in polo, one of the big differences, we're riding in hunters and jumpers and most other forms of equestrian sports, the horses don't come together. So polo's one rare where you really having horses come right next to each other, bumping each other, and so they have to have a great temperament to do that. Typically, they say one of the best breeds in the States to use for polo is a crossbreed between a quarter horse and a thoroughbred. Quarter horse for their speed and their quickness, as well as their ability to churn and go fast. The thoroughbred aspect is the galloping part for longer distances. So that's typically the breed of choice, a crossbreed for polo ponies.
Oh, polo ponies. Okay, so I was going to get to that because last week, part one, they kept calling them ponies. You guys kept calling them horses. So in the match, are they polo ponies? What are they?
So the name dates back to early polo. So a few things. So Kevin alluded to the size of the field. It's the largest playing field of any known sport in history and currently. It is also the oldest team sport in the world, dating back to 600 BCE to ancient Persia. And dating back then, they actually used true ponies. So I think in sort of horse vernacular or lexicon, a pony is any sort of equine that is under 14.2 hands. And a hand is actually measured by I think it's 4 inches or something like that. 4 inches, right? So a 15-hand horse is going to be 5 feet or something like that. So anything under 14, which is 4-ish feet or something like that, is going to be considered a pony. Anything above that is considered a horse. We refer to polo horses. We actually ride horses, but we only refer to them as ponies because they're so nimble. Because a long time ago, they needed these really nimble horses and things like that. And they hadn't gotten all the breeds together 1,000 years ago like we do now. And so they used ponies, and the word just stuck. So when we mean pony, we just mean a very nimble horse. So you're not going to see any real ponies playing out there. So
Gotcha.
And to add to Dale, most of the horses aren't that big in polo. So when you go to dressage or jumping, there's some big horses, 17 hands, giant horses. But in polo, because you have to get low to the ground and hit the ball off the ground, you can't be on the giant horse. So most of the horses are on the small side. They're not technically ponies, but they're not big horses.
Right.
Absolutely. We just saw that flyer. I'll put that up there. Your team is playing this Saturday in Maryland. Is that correct?
23rd.
Next week, 23rd.
23rd. Okay. Next week. You got another week. Y'all put the flyer back up for me, Taryn. Sponsored or Grandiosity Events presents the Celebrity Charity Polo and Jazz thing, y'all. Hosted by Judge Mathis, and you got some celebrity guests, T-Boz. I don't know who else is coming through. I heard it's quite the event. I'm really upset that I'm traveling that day and can't make it, but the Afro will be in the building to chronicle the history of this momentous occasion. But if you haven't got a ticket yet, you guys go to grandiosityevents.com and come. They said be dressed to the what's the dress for? I know you guys are the players, but do you go to other polo events?
Yeah, actually, I do a polo event in Atlanta.
Okay. When is that?
Atlanta Fashion Polo Classic.
Okay.
Mine's in October. So, as a matter of fact, that's how all of us on here were connected, because everybody all of the guys here have played in my event in Atlanta. I think everybody's played at least 2 to 3 years with me. So, and this will be our first time riding together outside of the Polo Classic. So,
it's a fun event.
Yes.
Yeah, Miguel puts on a good show for sure.
So dress code wise, think of it like a derby party.
Right. Like Kentucky Derby. So, wearing the hats and what do you call them? The
seersuckers and colorful blazers and
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a great time. They said, ladies, don't wear your heels because you're going to be in the grass. Right? Is that that's what I heard.
They wear heels.
Or carry them and carry your platform. So if you want to stand on if you want to wear those shoes that bad. Ashley, what's going through your mind now? What question?
I just want to hear more about Black polo players that have trailblazed a path for you. Are there any that you can shout out specifically that made an impact or that you grew up watching ride?
No,
I don't know any old.
No.
I don't know any older polo players like that. Black. I don't know.
There is one. There's a doctor in LA who played a lot of polo, and he played with Sylvester Stallone and a lot of the Hollywood types, and he was quite big into polo. I can't remember his name at the time, but I saw articles about him. He's an older gentleman now, probably in his 80s, but he was pretty big in the California, LA polo scene. I didn't get into polo myself until later, and there just is not many African-American polo players that I know of personally.
Kevin's wife plays, my wife plays, and I don't know of many other husband-wife team Black African-Americans that play polo. So that's, I think, an interesting caveat.
Is the average team about 4 players, or how big or how small can the teams go up to or range from in size?
It's always 4-on-4 if you're playing on a field. And then there's another type of polo called arena polo, which is a smaller area. We play on sand. In California, we'll play that when the weather changes. It never really rains here in California, but the fields turn brown, so we move to the arena and we'll play 3-on-3.
You went Tony on us, huh? Okay.
Right.
Oh no, it's true.
In Southern California. If you
Exactly.
This is Black people versus the sport of polo, you guys. This is a rare historical moment that we have 4 African American polo players that happen to be male. I'm interested to know about what is your other side of your life. How often do you get to play polo? A week or a month or is it daily?
I ride my horses every day. So I have 2 and I keep them up to snuff. They stay just not a few miles here from my office. So to Ashley, she asked a question earlier about how do we build those relationships? When you have your own horses, that relationship is built every day. I know that the other players can speak to that, especially Kevin. I know he's got a few horses. But then also the horses that we're going to be playing aren't going to be our horses, right? So we all have to be exceptionally good riders. Because we're going to be riding someone else's horses. And that's the versatility of polo players. So we'll have to quickly build those relationships with the horses in Maryland and do the thing. So
when are you guys coming into Maryland? Are you coming in a few days before to sort of start that relationship, or are you just gonna break them in the day of?
I have a store in Maryland, and I'm actually on the governor's economic development committee. So I'm there quite often working. I'll be coming in earlier, and I'll get there probably on the 19th, dealing with, I think, the same thing. The CBC is going on and so forth. So I'll be in earlier in the week. And I don't know about Eric, but I don't own horses. And while both Dale, those guys have their own horses, I always lease the horses from wherever I'm playing. Yeah. So I never know who I'm riding until I get there.
Yeah, me either. I owned horses maybe 20 years ago, but since with polo, in my work schedule, I've got family and stuff. It's just hard, and then I worked in DC, so I wanted to keep horses in my own place, but otherwise you're boarding them. So I find it's more fun to lease the different horses when you show up. And typically when I play, it's 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes it's a stick and ball, which is just a practice where I just work on my skills by myself, like drilling. And that helps you build a relationship with the horse, but you still got to put the time into it. But when we play on the 23rd, we'll probably be able to get on horses an hour before the match to feel them out and try each one of them and see which ones we want to use in which chucker, see how they all handle. Every horse has a unique handle. Some are very responsive to the bit, some are not. Some have different speeds, some turn better than others. So I personally want a really good Western handle on a horse where he turns on the dime. Some people just want to go fast and run straight. That everyone's different. So I always want that handle where I can change the direction of the ball a game or slow down the pace and then pass the ball to a teammate so they can score if I'm under pressure from defense. Because it comes up, I use a lot of basketball lingo where you're throwing up, defense and screens and stuff like it kind of comes across in that too. When you're trying to take out other players or set somebody up, or actually we have a juke move where you stop the horse and move behind the opponent and then either hit the ball or take off. And it pisses off American riders a lot because it's more of an Argentine polo soccer motion. That comes with practice and having a horse with a good handle versus if, when I play young high school people, they just want to go fast and hit the ball. And I'm old and I'm fat. I'm a heavy dude, so I can't always. So I have to use finesse at this point because, to actually get up, one over on those kids when they're light and they're fast and they take more chances too.
Oh, so they don't like the old man style. They say, man, old man beat most young guys in one-on-one basketball too.
Exactly, but you can win with the finesse.
Right.
Strategic.
Yeah.
Taryn told us a little bit earlier before we hopped on the call that there were two types of riding. There's English and Western, like you just mentioned. So can you break that down for us and also explain how that'll go into the match on the 23rd?
Dale, you can speak to which one you want to pick, and then we'll just kind of
talking about the saddle.
For sure. I mean, it's a conversation, so everybody can jump in. So feel free to over talk me or whatever. But to your point, Ashley, two types of riding, dominant forms of riding, Western and English. Depends on the equipment that we're using. So I think Eric kind of alluded to it. I think Kevin even mentioned it about the saddle. So those saddles are different. So whenever you see a Western saddle, it's going to have that horn right there, when you go on a trail ride or something like that. And those saddles are really designed for working horses, right? Like cattle ranching and things like that. So you're going to be in your saddle for a long time. So you want something deep, you want something big and comfortable. You also want something heavy duty and sturdy for when you're trying to round up cattle and kind of tying them and keeping them in place. Right. So and then of course the kind of the deep stirrup. So that's kind of when you think the cowboy, that's what you think of. Now with an English saddle, you're going to think about more of that dressage, more of the hunter jumper, more of the polo. We play with a close contact English saddle. It's not going to have the horn. It's built to be kind of light. It's built for dexterity so that we can actually maneuver on it. And the English saddle, if you think about the history of the English saddle, it's a lot smaller because it was designed for actual like hunting. And then jumping and things like that. So you needed a quick light saddle to throw on the horse and to be able to kind of get up and move. And back then, I guess they used to shoot off the back of the horse and things like that. So you need something like that. You can't have this big, heavy saddle. You need that space for your horse to be able to move. So ultimately, though, those two disciplines, English and Western, you have a different type of equitation. So, we're going to be a lot more upright. We're focused a lot more on posture, staying in the saddle. I think you're going to be focused a lot. Your body is going to, in my opinion, I think English equitation requires a lot more strength in your legs and core and things like that. Whereas Western, you just kind of see them plodding along and stuff like that. And I'm sure my cousins will probably not appreciate me saying that because they're all Western riders. But, I take it as like a less intensive form of equitation. But I mean, it is what it is. So.
And some people even grew up riding bareback. Do you ever play polo bareback, or would you not do that? It's too much.
No, you would not do that because at the speed you're moving, and you have to lean out the saddle. Like it'd be very dangerous, and it would end poorly if you tried to do it bareback. So
a lot more people. It'd be a lot more falls. Because I realize sometimes, man, the momentum of a horse is changing directions real quick. If you don't have anything to hold on with your legs, because really, as a polo player, your bases is your legs and your seat, and you have to be turning to the right, turning to the left with your upper body while still holding on with your lower body, and without pulling back on the horse's mouth. So using your legs keeps you from overexerting your. If you're using your hands to hold on, then you're going to be pulling that horse's mouth the whole time, which is not good at all because you're telling the horse to stop every time you do that. And you could hurt his mouth. But so having a good base, a riding foundation, learning how to ride, particularly English hunt seat, is a good foundation for someone to move into polo because you don't want to have to be thinking about your riding while you're also trying to think about how to get to the ball. So your riding has to become more instinctive. You have to be good enough that your riding comes naturally. You don't have to focus on cantering or trotting or posting and the things that just basic horsemanship that you do.
So that's one of the things that makes polo so interesting to me, because I played other sports, and in other sports, you do all your drills and you're just focused on yourself. If you're playing basketball, your handle, your jumper, whatever, football, your whatever. But in polo, you have to be in good condition yourself, and then you have to work on your mallet skills, hitting the ball. But then just as important, even more important, is your riding. So you have to get your riding together, and you got to get your horse trained. So it's like you're training a team, even if it's just you and your horse. Like you've got so many like different components you're working on at the same time to get better. Your horse has to be good, your riding has to be good, and then your mallet skills have to be good. So that's what makes polo really cool to me.
Yeah.
And then with also the other part that where polo uses Western riding is you're neck reining the horse, which you see the cowboys with one hand. That's what we use in polo, because you have to hold the mallet in your right hand to hit. So you always guide the horse with your left hand. And that's called neck reining, where you want to turn left or right. You typically lean the reins on the horse's neck, and they'll kind of go in that direction for you. So it leaves you freed up to make decisions or hit the ball in any direction you need to. So that's where the Western riding part, and every horse for polo needs to have that Western reining training to make them a good polo pony. And then you can transition into the English saddle and all those other things. But that foundation is laid with that Western training, because of that handle coming in again. And that's where that kind of crosses over. And so if you come from Western, I've seen people, depending on how much they ride, I've seen hunter jumpers that transition really well, but the people that really took the time to learn the basics, take off. Once I took it up, within 6 months, I was getting decent. Versus somebody that hadn't ridden before, it took them a few years, but now they've surpassed me because they ride more than me. They're really good. They got the handle down. You can see the difference, but that Western or that foundation in riding, either discipline you pick, it's just important to practice it as much as you can. Like Miguel said, it becomes instinctual.
Yeah, polo is like 80% riding. And I saw a question pop up that said, how much work do we do? The horse does all the work. That is a very common misconception. When you're playing polo, you'll see us out there. We'll be sweating along with the horses. Staying on a horse, moving at the speeds that they're moving, and the dexterity and the things that we're doing to turn them, and we're using our legs. We're not using the reins, as was mentioned before. You don't, like as Miguel was mentioning. That's a secondary aid or a secondary device, which a lot of people don't know. We're using most of our legs. It gets pretty intense. So just wanted to answer that question there, that no, the horse does not do all of the work. The human element in that is I would say it's tremendous. Like there's a lot of work that we do.
And to add on that, like after you get done playing, you think, oh, I'm sitting on this horse, I'll be like refreshed when I'm done. I'm not doing any work, but it's a whole body workout. And I think they say you burn as many calories cantering or galloping a horse as you do running. And at the end of a game, you'll be exhausted and your body can hurt, because there's so much stopping and going and turning, and your abs can hurt and your legs can be tired. Like Epsom bath soak is a common occurrence after a game of polo.
Man, I'm looking for something to show, because I'm all on here. I'm looking at polo clips, fellas. I'm sorry, I got all lost. I'm listening to you looking at polo clips. Let me see. I found something on YouTube. It was a lady playing, but just the speed of it is amazing.
It's very fast-paced game.
And I just see how the ball is small. It's not like a beach ball you're hitting.
No,
it's baseball size.
And it hurts if you get hit by it too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fiberglass, so it's hard.
So does it get airborne? Like how do you get it airborne?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like a golf swing.
Swing.
You get that. It gets that lift.
Yep.
So everybody has to wear a helmet, and a lot of people are advised to wear a face mask, because if you get hit in the face with a polo ball, you will lose all your teeth.
Yeah.
People wear elbow pads.
All your teeth, not just one.
Yeah.
It's a fiberglass ball. It's coming at you at a couple,
Yeah.
high speed. It's harder than a baseball. It literally is. So.
Wow.
People wear elbow pads because if you get hit in your elbow with the ball, you know, you can easily break your elbow. You wear knee pads. It's a physical sport. It's a very physical sport. I think the closest equivalent is probably ice hockey. I would say between the mallet and the stick and the level of physicality of the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are the other common injuries that polo players experience?
Broken collarbone, shoulders, ankles. I've broken
hips,
my wrist. Like, yeah, you can go in and
Yeah.
really hurt. I've gotten a concussion.
I
There's
broke my leg. Yeah.
Someone
Yeah,
else.
he just answered the question. Oh, I'm sorry. That's funny. Me and the producer were both pulling it down and taking it up. So it's like, wait a minute. So no, so look, so let me see if I can add this to it. This is what I found. Just I can play it and see if
that looks like Shariah, isn't it?
That's Shariah, yeah.
She's a young player. Yeah.
She's the top top African American lady, a female rider in the country.
She's in her early 20s.
Did she write at Cornell or something like that? I think
she played at Cornell.
Played at Cornell.
Yeah.
Isn't she associated with the Work to Ride program?
Yeah, she came out of that program.
Yeah.
Really.
But she plays fast, so you play against her, you better bring it.
Wow, that field is really big. It is big.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, man. You guys are history makers as a team, man. We gotta get you a name. It's time for
I'll say this too. The polo has historically been known as the king sport. It is a game, and I think the thing that I like about the game as well, and why I started a foundation introducing polo to inner city kids, because it is traditionally the king sport, and it's something that really we don't have access to, and I've seen kids learn to play polo, and it gives them a confidence to do anything and everything else. In addition, the people you meet in polo are very amazing. You're going to meet people who own companies, who sit on boards, who have a lot of access and opportunities they can create for the kids and so forth. So one of the greatest things about being in this game is that you get to meet people as African American that you never ever would meet otherwise.
Yeah.
So, and I found like I went to Napa, and I called Dale up a few weeks ago just to go play polo, and it's just they welcomed me. I didn't know anybody there. I just mentioned Dale's name, and they just let me. Everybody had a good time. I think so for me, traveling the country and being able to play polo in different cities and even different countries is just an amazing thing, because you just get to meet so many great people.
Yeah. And you get to play all over the world. I mean, I've definitely played. I was just playing in Jamaica in the spring and played in a tournament there. That was a lot of fun. And then we're going to do another one next year in Nigeria versus Jamaica, which should be really cool, in Kingston. And so I think, there is this growing movement of people throughout the diaspora actually playing. And I think the great thing about this team is, and especially all of these men on this page right now, is that we're all kind of like the first generation, if you will, to sort of start to build polo. So like you'd asked earlier, Ashley, is there anyone we looked up to? And Kevin mentioned one guy, but you have to understand, like, the United States Polo Association wasn't giving Black people, or even women for that matter, handicaps until, let's be legit, about the 1980s. And so even though people may have played, they weren't going to be officially recognized. The USPA does recognize this, and we know that it was an ill. But, I think sitting as the chair of the U.S. Polo Association Diversity and Equity Inclusion Committee, I think the unique thing about Black polo players is we don't have legacies of polo like a lot of other communities do, right? So, we are the first groups of people really to own those horses and to kind of build those things. And, Kev's got a kid, so obviously his kid will most likely, if he's interested, will be a second generation. So I think we're really the first legit group of people who kind of are established enough to kind of start to build this out and get people interested in it, right. Our families and our friends and our community. So I think that that's a really unique thing. And I think also the great thing about this group of people is there are a lot of programs out there. Like if you're talking about like which is like the interscholastic, intercollegiate, and those things are heavily subsidized to get young people in the sport. But then Miguel and Eric mentioned that it tapers off after college or something because people can't afford it. So I think the unique thing about this group too is like we haven't really had that boost, right? We're just coming out of the blocks by ourselves with no sort of support or anything like that, and kind of bootstrapping it, if you will, and making it happen. So I think that there are a number of different narratives here in this group, and a lot of the sort of up and coming other Afro-American and Black polo players that you're seeing, not only here in the United States, but throughout the diaspora. So, yeah.
That's why I think it's so great with Susan's event, Jazz and Polo, and then my event, Atlanta Fashion Polo Classic. These are two events that make it easy for us, being African Americans, to be exposed to the game and also get interest. So while a lot of people, these are primarily Black events where the people come to watch are African Americans as well. So they may not ride themselves, they may not choose to play polo themselves, but they may get their kids into it. They may get, so and I'm sure my friends here say the same thing. We get asked by other people all the time when we play, I want to get my son in, I want to get my daughter, granddaughter, whatever in there. What I need to do. So just them seeing us play and creating these types of events where we celebrate African American culture makes it easier for others to get involved with it, because we can feel intimidated going to a polo match where it's just white culture, because we might feel like, okay, I can't ask these questions. I don't want to seem dumb. I don't want to seem ignorant or whatever. Whereas at our events, and you see us, people are comfortable asking questions that in one.
Just to back
This
up.
one was getting good,
Yeah, but to follow on with that, being at Miguel's event, it was nice to go out among the crowd on the horses, and a lot of people hadn't been close to horses before. So just to walk up to you, ask a few questions, take a few pictures with the horses, pet them, that was a big deal for them. And that introduction means a lot. So a lot of people were asking questions at that event. I really enjoyed, giving them my backstory and my approach to doing things, just to kind of encourage them to get into it and just try it out.
Right. I also think that the legacy of the guys in this on this panel here, whether it's Eric or Kev, I know Kev's brother lives here in the Bay Area and rides horses here as well, is that it just shares that narrative that we've always ridden horses. So I think it's this idea that our group of people doesn't do this thing, right? And so I think us being there and the legacies that we can demonstrate show that, like, hey, we have actually always been there. It's just a lot of that history gets kind of muddled or covered or foggy as we move through time. So I think it's really cool to kind of expose, new people. Obviously, Eric and Kevin have their kids who they can show. I mean, and Miguel too. I guess I'm the only one here without them. So they can all show their kids and things like that. That thing, and then of course our greater community. I think is really dope. It's really cool.
And I agree. I think what always makes me so happy is when you do rides and you expose people to horses who might never have seen them before. Like my family does a ride. There's a ride in Chicago where the Black Cowboy group there rides along Lakeshore Drive and through the University of Chicago campus. And just to see the kids run up to you and who have never seen a horse, and they're just like amazed and fascinated, and you let the kids get on and pet them, and it just to see the joy on their face that they might never have had this opportunity before, and to introduce them to it and to let them know that there's a whole subculture of Black people who ride horses. They might not play polo. There's Black cowboys, there's Black trail riders, Black dressage riders. Like, just the horse life is something that when you get hooked on it, it becomes something part of your life. And you may choose different disciplines, but to be able to expose kids to that, and other people who you always meet people who are like, I always wanted a horse, I always wanted to learn to ride, and to let them see you doing it encourages them to go for that dream and pursue that. So that's one of the really things I really like about horses.
I'm glad you said that, Kevin, because I was at a friend of mine has a Black rodeo in Arizona. I don't know. And I went to that rodeo for the first time. It was a whole different experience. It was sold out too.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, the brothers and sisters were in, and they had their little cowboy boots and shorts, and I mean the ladies. Well, you know, they did it in the African American way, but it was, you know, it was just a total different experience. And then I met one of the guys who was riding a horse, and I said, "You a cowboy or something?" He said, "No, I'm." I asked him, "Was he a something?" And he said, "No, I'm a cowboy," which was different from a wrestler or whatever. All of the language, it was just like I was in a foreign country. But it was an amazing. They rode those bulls and those Broncos bucked, and then they had little girls like 5 and 6 years old. They did something where they ran the horse down, went around the barrel, and
Barrel
race, yeah, all of that stuff. I think it's an opportunity to do a weekend with the rodeo and the polo. You know what I mean? Miguel, I'll try to connect you guys together because, you know, and as well as, like you said, just the kids can come out and see the horses.
Right. I got a question here.
Maybe
I want to know: do I at least for the day all the time? So I don't have a long-term lease. So I ride wherever I am. I travel a lot. I play, you know, pretty much everywhere I go. I play up in the D.C. area, Middleburg, Virginia, Potomac, Maryland, down in Atlanta, down in Florida, West Palm, and now Napa. So I have to get horses everywhere I go. So, and I tell you, you know, I used to really enjoy the process, like these guys talk about, of you know, just the relationship building part of having a horse. But my time is so tight, man. Showing up, like Kevin, now I like to show up, get on, and go. So that fits my lifestyle.
I guess what we didn't get out there was the cost. Like, can you go play a pickup polo game?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of times you can, you know, here in Atlanta, we have games we have probably 3-4 games a week. And the email goes out, Kevin gets it, I get it, and all other polo players here. And you put down what matches you want to play in. You put down how many chuckers you want to play. You also put down if you want to lease a horse or bring your own horse. So every week we have an opportunity to play here. And I'm sure those guys do too.
I'm in Atlanta, so I need to, for those in the Atlanta area,
okay,
who are tuned in.
So you know, I have a clothing store inside Phipps Plaza here.
Okay.
In Atlanta.
What's the name of your clothing store, brother?
Miguel Wilson. You need to come to my Polo Classic then, October the 8th.
Miguel Wilson. If you're in the Atlanta area, Phipps Plaza is that other.
Yeah, Miguel.
That money, that super money plaza across the street from the famous Lenox Mall, y'all. And who knew we had an African American owner in that store? I didn't know. I wouldn't even known if I had never done this show because Miguel just didn't seem like a brother's name. But guess what? It is. It
is, exactly. Somebody's asked about the cost. Right. So generally when I play, you know, because I'm leasing a horse as well as you have to pay your entry fee, it generally costs me between $150 to $200 per chucker. And that's like for every quarter I play is about $150 to $200. So if I play a full game, I figure $600 to $800.
So you're gonna drop a band, people. Just
yeah.
So I see why this game hadn't been for us. You know.
Well, it depends on what you want. Like some people buy Harleys, some people buy, you know, classic cars. It's all about where you want to put your money.
Right. I'm just talking about a person just.
Or you want to be at the club on the weekends. If you want to do bottles, pop bottles.
Same bottle service.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the owner perspective too, and I think Kevin can probably back me up here. So there's a bunch of different ways. If you want to play polo a lot more often locally, you will own your horses so that the costs actually come down. So to Miguel and Eric's point, like if you're playing, like I did the math, like I was playing every Thursday and Friday or something like that. I was dropping, you know, even if I wanted to play 2 rounds, it was $150 a round. That was $300. If I wanted to play 4, that was $600. If I'm playing twice a week, that's $1,200. You multiply that times 4, what is that? That's $4,800. Very quickly, it costs like, hey, it actually, and then to board my horse over here cost me $650, right? So very quickly, and then, you know, you want to ride your horse and do lessons and things like that. So the costs start, you know, it starts adding up very quickly, and you think, oh, okay, owning my own horse, if I want to play this long term, actually becomes the more and regularly becomes the more economically viable option. So I have 2 horses. I pay what, $600, so I pay $1,200 a month about to keep them boarded at a full-fledged boarding facility. So that means I can travel and things like that, and they're taken care of. So the horses themselves cost me about $15 a year just to maintain. And then you want to think about vet and things like that. So the vet comes out a couple times. So then you maybe trouble at $500 for my vet. I keep my horses really healthy. And then I get my horses shoed every 8 to 9 weeks. And so that costs me about $250. So, I think, my costs probably are just to keep my horses themselves. They're probably about $17 a year annually to keep my 2 horses. And then, I've got a truck and a trailer, so I transport, and so does Kevin, transport your own horse everywhere. So you think about fuel, all those things. But a lot of these are sunk costs. So like they're one-time costs. So you buy the horse one time, you do that one time, and then everything else is variable. So it's the kind of polo you want to play. If you want to play, millionaires polo, you can. If you want to play, poor man's polo, I don't want to call it that, but that's where I play. But if you want to play a little bit of that, then
man's polo working.
So I think the takeaway is polo is expensive. However you do it, if you want to get into horses in general, you can do it much cheaper. But given the nature of the game and the fact that you need multiple horses, it just is an expensive sport. That's why it was called the Game of Kings. But like Eric was saying, like Mazel, it's how you choose to spend your money. You can be in the club, you can buy a Maserati, you can buy a Bentley, or you can
buy a horse.
Right? I try not to keep too close track of the cost, or else I might have to slow down. But
listen, we have gotten an education today. This has been Black People versus Polo. You guys need a whole documentary. I got a name for you: the Black Polo Kings, BPKs.
I like it.
Y'all can have that. Y'all can have that for free because you
need to come to my polo event in Atlanta on October the 10th. October 8th. All these guys will be here. They're all playing in it too, so they'll be here October.
I'm gonna come by. It's the same day as So Def 30th anniversary.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So on that day. So
I see the red and white on your hand. Is that
no, it's Crimson,
Elder Watson Diggs?
It's Crimson and Cream, brother. Anyway, yes sir.
Elder Watson Diggs?
Absolutely. We already double connected. So Ashley, before we get off, and everybody, because I want to respect your time, I'm gonna connect with you, Miguel, right when we get off.
Okay.
But we're just gonna go around, and this is what we get on the box. And the box is anything you want to share, 30 seconds. Anything you want to speak about polo, life, anything. That's why they call this the chicken box. This is powered by the Afro-American newspaper, Maryland's oldest Black business, 131 years. Support our business. It's for less than 2 Uber Eats, $40 a year. You can get a digital subscription for $100. You can get the classic historical paper along with the digital edition. Nobody controls our content, and nobody tells us when we can say it or how we can say it. We've been saying it for 131 years, and we have the archives to show it. So go to afro.com and get a subscription. It's a great Christmas gift or gift at any moment. It allows us to pay the new Gen Zers, Ashley, just coming out of Howard University in DC, and all of the other wonderful talent that support keeping the story going now into 6 generations. So I'm just going to say you're on the box. Ashley, I'm going to let you get on the box first, because I know you got to get you on deadline. So
Yep, we just had the special edition of the paper come out. Super exciting. On the box, I just want to say, cater to the only one in the room. I think we talked a lot today, and excuse the train going by, about, being the only in a field or in a sport. So if you notice somebody in the room around you that is the only, take that extra step to make sure that they feel welcome, to make sure that they feel included. Before I hop off the box, I wanted to shout out or just specify what the Work to Ride crew actually is. That's where Polo Ralph Lauren actually shared the story of Damar Rosaire, Kareem Rosaire, Shariah Harris, who we mentioned, who's a Black female player, and Malachi Lyles, who worked in Philadelphia for this training program that involved the youth and getting people who were underrepresented into the sport. So shout out to Polo. I'll see you all there on September 23rd. We are super excited to learn more and to try something new. And that's my spiel for today.
All right, you're off the box. Eric Brown, polo player from Virginia, right? Richmond area.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank
Absolutely.
you. I just want to tell people they can always don't be afraid to try new things, explore, spread your wings a little bit, even if it feels uncomfortable. Get comfortable with that. I wouldn't have experienced all the things I have without that. People can always reach out to me to ask questions about horses. I have a IG account, Urban Equitrekker, and they can always ask me questions about horses or ask me about trips. I got Dale to travel with me to Spain to ride. I want to get Miguel and Kevin on a long distance ride trip with me sooner or later. But again, spread your wings, reach out for me. You reach out to me with any questions you have about horses and help you kind of get your foot in the door in that arena.
All right. Miguel, you are now on the box, my brother.
Yeah, so I created the Ride to the Olympics Foundation in order to help expose our inner city kids to horses and polo. And for me, I think that exposure is everything. Being able to have access to people, meet different people, those are things that change lives. And that's, I'd say, and I think everyone on here could tell you that their exposure and experiences with horses and polo has definitely exposed them to something different and new. So I just pray to keep on getting more of us involved in the game through my foundation or through my events with the Atlanta Fashion Polo Classic.
Absolutely. And we didn't shout it out enough, but the Morehouse does have a polo team. Is that the only HBCU with a polo team?
It is the first and only HBCU. And I'll say, you know, it's such a difficult thing to do and start. I mean, I founded the Morehouse Polo team, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I can't see myself doing any other ones because that was just very challenging to do it and to just keep it maintaining.
Right.
So,
absolutely. All right. Kevin, you're in the box, my brother.
Okay. You know, this has been great. I hope people take away from this, not just polo, but just horses in general. Like Eric said, don't be afraid to try new things. And there is a joy in horses that I wish more Black people could experience, like being in touch with nature. And it's a great thing for yourself and for your kids. So don't be afraid to try something new. It might be horses, it might be something else. But you can follow me and my wife on Instagram at equestrian_Noir. And also check out our webpage, eqnoir.com. We developed a line of leather bags and equestrian-related fashion things that put a African-American spin on the equestrian aesthetic. So
that's EQNOIR?
E.
NOIRE. Okay. EQNOIRE.com. Go check the website out, y'all. So we need to support each other. Even if we don't play polo. It's probably something in there cool, right?
Definitely.
And Dale, you're on the box. Tell us again, you're the president of...
Yeah, I'm the chairman of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for all of US Polo. And so, you know, my encouragement to everyone is, like everyone else said, don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to ask the people who are blazing the trail. So these gentlemen here, who I deeply respect and appreciate, and know that, you know, you're not the only one out there doing this. They have a lot of advice. And also to do it your own way. I think with polo, there's a lot of connotations with polo, and people feel as if things have to be done a certain way, and people will tell you to do that way. But I think the unique thing about us and being Afro-Americans and things like that is we can blaze our own unique trails in a way that's often at that point, you know, duplicated, right? So do that, and that's all I've got. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody tuning in, whether you made a comment or not. Craig, Joel, a guy named King on here. King, good to have you. King, you contributed the most today. We got Laura and anybody else, George, anybody watching on the replay, because I know everybody's not watching at the same time. Man, if you can't play, I would say come experience an event. They're having one in Maryland in September the 23rd and one in Atlanta October the 8th that we know about, and that one is by I can't even think of her name right now, but on the 20th, the Grandiosity event. What's Susan Smallwood. Susan Smallwood, and then Miguel Wilson also has one here in Atlanta as well, which we'll put some more information out about that. But thank you, everybody. Remember, call a senior up. They are looking for you to say hello. Don't text them, please. Just call them and tell them you love them and you miss them, because it will change and make their day. I know sometimes we get so busy that we don't think about that. And thank you again for tuning in to this week's Chicken Box with my brothers, the Black Polo Kings. Now started form. They're going down in the history books. You guys' picture will be the role model for the future Black polo players, not only here in America, but of the world. So we're looking forward to the impact that you guys are going to make, not only in the lives of young African Americans, but just in the sport. And I'm ready to put y'all up against any of them. Y'all look like y'all can go. I can't. But listen, we need some good film on these polo events. Do we? We need some like real good. Spend the money and get the camera coverage, because we need.
I have footage from the last couple years. I got footage of all these guys. I just got to get it from my camera crew. But we do have. I can get some footage for you.
All right. Well, until next week, everybody. Hang in there, guys. Miguel, I'm just going to exchange numbers. Since any other shout outs for fraternities for the other brothers? I know. Okay, we got the alphas, we got the noobs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got the Divine Niners representing the polo fellas. So we're gonna keep them. Ashley, thank you very much. I know you got to go. It's always a pleasure. And Taryn, our producer, thank you. Everybody have a fantastic day.
You too.
As well.
Thank you.